Greetings gamers, my name is Anto. Welcome to another stream. Hopefully you can see and hear me and everything is all going right. I was a bit pressed for time in the before stream times, so I was scrambling to get on stream on time. So hopefully everything has gone right on my end in the time before I pushed the big red button and everything has gone fine. So welcome into the stream. This evening we're going to be making the Game Master's spreadsheet that I have been using behind the scenes for several years now and been promising you that I would make a version available for folks. And tonight and potentially in future streams we're going to build a public facing version of that, because my version is packed with so many little weird idiosyncrasies that I couldn't just put it out, so I figured we'd build one from scratch and I'd use this time to get direct feedback from you live in the chat as we go through for what sort of stuff you would find useful in this spreadsheet as we go through and build it, and then kind of lay the foundation during the streams, and then I can polish it all up off camera and make a nice useful kind of spreadsheet for people to be able to use that's going to help you generate a bunch of like random content to put into your worlds and just help inspire the world building process. That's the plan. Anyway, we'll see how we get on. So I'm going to press a whole bunch of the buttons and make sure that everything is actually working. So we're going to test out the desktop view. So we're going to be doing a lot of work in Excel today, so it's going to be a lot of this white screen, so you might want to turn your screen brightness down. I am sorry. And I just want to check that it is picking up the right instance of Excel. Yes, it is. Cool. We are all gravy. So as we go through this, I am going to be kind of referencing my previous kind of Excel master book and copying over some elements of that, but I do want to hear from you what things you'd like to see included in this spreadsheet, because this is going to be the version that goes out to you all, so you might as well get a version that you can use and has the stuff that you want to see in it. So if we go ahead and jump into Excel. So our first page, this is the index, currently blank because we don't have anything here. We've got a couple of just tester pages that I've put in just to start populating some of the stuff in the world, or the spreadsheet, and to bring some of the formulas that are going to be really important as we go through this. So the first thing is going to be this Istari calendar. So this is just the version of the calendar of Ishtar, which is my homebrew world, that I use for my game. So I used to break it down into being a more complicated version. I used to have like the month grouped out into a merged cell, and when I would export this out into Legend Keeper, which was where I do most of my kind of game running, then I was finding myself having to scroll up and down a lot to find out what month I was in. So I have realigned that so that now the date lists out exactly what the date is with the month to make my life easier. You'll also notice that there is a column here that has a bunch of question marks in it. These are emojis, so I'm just going to double check that this does actually work. It does work. So if you copy this into a web browser or into Legend Keeper, or I think if you open it in Google Sheets, this works as well. I will verify that right now whilst we are on stream before I tell you that that does just work categorically. I'm pretty sure it does, but I am going to check. Where are we? Game Master Bible? Is that the one? That is the one. Istari calendar. It does work. So if you open the version of this in Google Sheets, which is how I will share it with the world when it is eventually available, this column will look like emojis, and it's emojis of moon phases. It's a lot of explanation just to get there. I don't know why Excel doesn't display emojis properly, but it will be various versions of the moon. I don't know why it's not displaying the moon properly either. Crashed Excel. This is a fantastic start. So we're just going to switch back to my face while Excel decides whether or not it's going to have an enormous fit and die. And then we're not going to try and put emojis in whilst also streaming at the same time, because that seems like a bad idea. And let's just kill Excel. Is that what we're doing here? I think that's what we're doing here. Yeah, we're gonna have to put Excel down, take it out the back of the tool shed, and just get rid of it. And then reopen. Do we have the right version? Let's open that version and hope for the best. We're off to an amazing start, obviously. And then let's see whether, yeah, of course. Oh no, it did load in. Huzzah! Everything is fine. So we've got a calendar, and then we've got this point of interest generator loaded in as well. So this is a generic point of interest generator and just has various kind of really vague points of interest, places of power, ruins, fighting pits, things like that. Stuff to populate a hex map with. And then it's got a region. So for my case, this would be regions of the dual cities. And then we've got dominant citizens. And if we F9 this, it gives us new results. And this is how we're going to be building a lot of the tools that we're going to be using throughout the evening. Is a specific, what is the word? Formula. That is the word. It's an index formula that pulls through this information and returns a random result from the list that you give it. And we pull in a bunch of lists, put our headings in, and doing that will allow us to F9 through them and make a whole bunch of random tables that we can randomly generate through. Really useful when you are populating maps, to be able to go through and be like, oh cool, there is a Koros shrine, a shrine to the god of murder in the Vale, and it is predominantly kind of lorded over by humans. It just mirrors the Excel screen flickering a lot. Let me have a look on YouTube. I don't see it flickering on OBS. And I don't see it flickering on my instance of YouTube. So it might be a you thing. But I don't... Oh no, I do see a bit of flickering. Let's see. Other folks have got this problem. Excel, you suck. Let me go into Excel and actually press some buttons and see whether we can get it to flicker. Oh yeah, I see the flicker now. As soon as I tabbed back into Excel, I started seeing it flicker. Okay. Right, that is not a problem. What we're going to do, we're going to put you back to my face, and I am going to figure out how to give it you in... We're going to look at this in Google Sheets view, I think, and see whether I can do this like that, and see whether we can get a version that doesn't flicker. We love on stream problem solving. So we'll just talk amongst ourselves while I do this. The thing that I would like from you all while I am doing this, because this is every on stream nightmare, is having to do tech related things while you're in the middle of stream, is for you to put suggestions of things that you would like to see in this spreadsheet, especially if you are someone who has watched a lot of the live streams before, a lot of the world building streams where you've seen me reference my existing one and use it in the past. I want to know the kinds of things that you want to see from this spreadsheet and what you would find useful, so that we can start building that into this public facing version as I go behind the scenes and save out a version of this and try and get it to load up in Google Drive. Slamfist says, when I've been playtesting my game, I found it helpful to have an NPC generator, columns of race, names, personality types. I absolutely find myself referring to something like that. And the version I have, I'm pretty sure I have a version in my spreadsheet master book. Let me double check. I do have an NPC generator. So in it, we've got first names, last names, race, gender, age, so sort of child, teen, young adult, adult, old, rather than specific numbers, so kind of age categories, like are they young or old. Height, professions, what else have we got? Their religions, quirks, and ideals, kind of bonds, flaws, ideals, that kind of thing, to generate an NPC that you can either just serve straight up to the players, that feels like it's always existed, or something that you can build off. Simple quest generators could be useful. There is a quest generator. I'll tell you what we will do. We will start by going to Drive, and we'll open up the version that I've been running off up until this point that can't be made publicly available because it's filled with too much bloat and too many like nonsense things, but is a useful reference point. So I'll open that up in Google Sheets, which may take a while, and then I am going to send us back over to the desktop, and we'll have a wonderful moment of a black screen. And then I am going to load us into a trusty Legend Keeper page for a second, because that is always reliable and always works, because I have that set up as like the bedrock of my this specific screen for streaming is just this web page, always ready to go. So if I switch to that now, cool. Right. The important question is, as I am dicking about with this, does it start to flicker? And whether or not we've got the same problem. So this is the existing master book. This is the one that I have been working out of for several years. And this is the one that we're going to be taking elements of this and building out the new public facing one. So you can see here on our first page, we've got the index, and we've got a whole bunch of stuff. We've got map making focus stuff, encounter making focus stuff, general lists, and then miscellaneous crap. In terms of the reference to quests, there is a quest generator on here. I just have to figure out where it is. Adventure Mad Libs, that is what it is. Adventure Mad Libs. So in Adventure Mad Libs, I don't know whether F9 will... Yeah, that's the problem with doing it in Google Sheets. We can't generate new options in this bar here because the F9 command doesn't regenerate them like it does in Excel. But it's not a problem. All of the commands, the formulas are still there. So the Adventure Mad Lib, we have a genre, the location, a villain, a goal, and a MacGuffin. And as you can see in the example, we could have a dark comedy adventure set in a jungle where you are trying to protect an artifact that a criminal is trying to get hold of. And using this generator, you can come up with some really strange combinations of kind of seeds to get some ideas for adventures. I've used this a whole bunch for not necessarily main quest stuff, but for a lot of like filler side quest episodes, you know, when your players are between major plot points and you need something to fill in that week. No flicker so far. Excellent, that's what we like to hear. So I think what we might do this evening is kind of overview of the master book as my version of the master book, the one that isn't going to be like made publicly facing, and we will start making notes in the kind of GM Bible version of options to include. So options to include, and then status. So we know we're going to want a calendar, a generic point of interest generator, a adventure madlib, yeah, I was thinking like a quest board for SideQuest. A quest board would be great. So a SideQuest quest board. So the calendar is done. The generic points of interest generator is like in progress. Probably need more stuff for it. Adventure madlib in progress. Need to copy paste stuff for that. Oh, the side quest board is in the wrong place. Item. Quick currency converter. That is going to go in the Dungeonomics page. Dungeonomics, including currency converter. So if we jump into my book, where are we for Dungeonomics? This is part of the reason why I need to remake this thing, because mine has lost all semblance of organization. So Dungeonomics, this mess of a page will get cleaned up and presented in a way, get out of here, AI analyze this data crap. Ugh, Google. Spray it with a water bottle. This absolute mess of a page will get cleaned up and represented into something that is much cleaner and easier to understand. But this is all of the core math behind my Dungeonomics series. So for the folks that have copies of the SideQuest magazine or annuals, you will be familiar with this. This is my rebuild of the 5th edition economy so that gold doesn't necessarily make sense from a real world perspective, but it makes more sense from going from the jump of paying like 100 gold for a low level item to paying like 250,000 gold for something as you level up. And I wanted a system where I could give players item prices based on what that item is. So what we ended up with is somewhere in here a table where, depending on what the item type is, whether it's a rod or a staff or a weapon or a wondrous item, and then whether it's a minor or major item and its rarity, gives you a base price, and then depending on whether it has attunement or a curse or is consumable, that adjusts the price, and you end up with a price that you can give the players to be like, okay, this wand costs 2,270 gold, and I have been using this now for my entire most recent 5th edition campaign. Didn't mean to bop the mic there, sorry. To great effect. It has made gold feel, get out of here with the fucking Gemini. It has made gold feel much more impactful in 5th edition. especially combined with my new, where's the table? Here it is. How much gold you get per level. I redid the level wealth tables so that the players, I know how much gold to give the players at each level. I took the amounts in the book, so there's a couple of like touchstone levels, 5, 11, and 17, or level 1, 5, 7, 1, 5, 11, and 17, where the book gives a specific starting gold amount, and then I've kind of filled in and extrapolated the data between all of those so that I know how much gold the players should be earning at each level, and then using that, figured out how much the magic items are worth, and using those two things together, the whole economy within my game doesn't make real world sense, but it makes a lot more sense than it has made any other time I've run 5th edition. And that's all I want, is I just want the gold to make enough sense that the players don't hate themselves every time they try and interact with the gold system or try and buy it in a shop. So we're definitely going to have a section on the economy. Let's jump back to our index. So city generator, let's copy all of that and paste it here and remove the hyperlinks. Is there a way to do that? You can tell that I don't work in Google Sheets a lot. Remove links. There we go. Cool. Stop, you stupid Gemini. I hate that AI is in everything. It really bothers me. There we go. Make these ones feet. Cool. So now we can just move the things over. There is a typo on MISC. I've been using this sheet for like 2 years and I've never even noticed that. So we're definitely going to have Dungeonomics. In terms of other generators, we definitely want a city generator and a dungeon generator. We want an NPC generator, an evocative point of interest generator. So if we jump back into the master book, I'll show you what that looks like. So the evocative point of interest generator is naming specific places. So it is taking a 2-word name. So in this case, the one we've ended up with is Wolf's Passage, and it gives a place name. We get what the citizen, so sort of the primary citizen of that place is, and what is the threat to that place. So in this case, we'd have a location that we could put on our hex map that would be called Wolf's Passage. It would be populated by drow who are under threat by a basilisk. And just immediately we have a story that starts coming together from that. And very quickly, using the other generators that we've got going on here, we can start to build adventures. All of these tools have a slant towards open world hex-based gameplay, because that is what I built them for, because that is the campaign that I am running, or more of the style of campaign that I'm running, and the kind of thing that I needed. So like the hex crawl hex generator is literally just a big old list of hex tiles. Like you generate one and okay, in this hex there is a fjord. In this hex there is a hill, for building out the physical map in hex terms and that kind of stuff. And I have found them to be incredibly useful. So we've got a generic point of interest generator, a location name generator. I can't remember what that is. Oh yeah, it is an enormous list of just names. Just a truly enormous list. Like how many? A bonkers amount. Like 34,000 place names. So a lot of these were pulled from a user on Reddit who'd gathered together like every name of a town in the UK. So, and then there's a whole bunch of like fantasy sounding names in here as well. Just really useful if you just need a random village name. So that will probably go in there either as is or with some tweaks, with some extra names put in there. Resources list is another hex scroll based one that is lists of like physical resources like wood, coal, gold, that kind of stuff. Because if you think of building your world in layers, which is how I'll often approach it, you build the map, and then either during the map making process or after the map making process, whilst you're kind of looking at everything, you're thinking, right, where are the natural resources going to be? At some point you go, right, what even constitutes as a natural resource, and what should I be concerning myself with here? That's what that list is for. A shop name generator, I think, is something that will probably go on there. The treasure map generator, this is something that I actually really like. So this is another one of those that is a bunch of index formulas, as well as just kind of like Mad Libs. So it's find the, and then an index formula, then go to another place. And when I was building this, I was very much thinking National Treasure, the National Treasure movies, how every time they get to a piece of the puzzle, that piece of the puzzle always points them somewhere else. So it was always a case of go to X, then X, until you find the something, then go somewhere else. So this is a whole bunch of lists of like points of interest, like a big cracked boulder or an old fort, and then you want to go in a cardinal direction for a number of miles until you come to a different point of interest, and then you go in a different cardinal direction for a number of miles until you come to a different set of points of interest, and on it goes. And then you'll find the treasure guarded by spirits in this case. So you go to the exact center of the lake, and then you go northeast for 1 to 4 miles until you find the hill shaped like a saddle. And then you carry on going northeast for another 1 to 4 miles until you find the ruined tower of famous mage, whatever the famous mage in your world is. Then you head southeast for 1 to 4 miles until you find the treasure guarded by spirits. So sometimes it will have you going along the same line, but it's easy enough to change. But it's just useful if you want to suddenly spring treasure on your players. So I think that's another one that'll get polished up and put in. Same with the Adventure Mad Libs. Saga planning, that is an old resource from way back at the start of the channel's days. If I can find it in the list. So this is how I plan out more linear story-based campaigns as opposed to like big open world sandbox. I plan them out in like sagas where it would be a case of going, right, the first several levels. So if we zoom out a little here, in this case it is the first 3 levels, so 9 adventures. You can see it when I zoom out here. The first 9 adventures would be the Free Company saga at the start of my campaign, this one that I'm currently in, and I plan out vaguely what the sort of headline plot, sentence of headline plot is for each of those adventures. The party are going to go to X location and fight Y monster. They're going to go and do this thing for this person. And then along the way, usually once we've started playing, sometimes before, depending on the campaign and what the context is, I will start adding second lines of B plots of, right, okay, in adventure 4, they're going to meet character A, who is going to recur 10 adventures down the line. or they're going to interact with this magic item from afar, and that magic item is going to come back in 20 adventures. And I start color coding it, and this kind of laying it out almost like post-it notes on the Charlie Day notice board, like the Pepe Sylvia board, I find to be incredibly helpful. I do have a video dedicated to the whole process somewhere on the channel. It's a really old video. I probably should remake it because I probably do have a lot more to say on the whole thing now. Then we come to lists. So books, pocket items, those things that probably won't get added because those are just things that I have pulled from other sources, put into mine for the sake of convenience, not having to go to a secondary source. But the drinks menu, the narcotics menu, certainly the drinks menu is all mine, so I'll probably pull that in. Crime and punishment, I'm pretty sure, is all mine and can be bought in. My homebrew magic items is definitely all mine, but I probably won't pull that in because I've got other plans for that. Then we've got calendar, which we've already put in. The free company generator, which I may put in. Just gonna make a column for notes here. Maybe include, because I'm not sure how useful that is going to be to everyone. Might rework that into more of a faction generator. If reworked into factions, reworked into faction generator. The bounded accuracy tables I'm 100% going to put in because those are really useful for people to understand how bounded accuracy works and how to calculate numbers in 5th edition. Then the weapons table, I think the weapons table is literally just the weapons from 5th edition. It is just the weapons from 5th edition, so probably not something that needs to be included within there. Why have we got... We've got the old Excel coming up over there. Right, get rid of that. Oh, it's because Excel's still visible. Has that been there the whole time? The whole time? And then my version has got a couple of monster generators pulled from Knave and some other sources. Those won't be pulled over. But we could make a monster generator in that style. Because they're fairly straightforward things to pull over. And we'll jump in and we'll have a look at the narcotics one. No, I don't think that will be pulled in. But we could go drinks and narcotics. Need to make some Istari narcotics, which is easy enough to do. Where is the just no formatting? No, that's not. I don't think that's what we want. Is that what we want? That's definitely not what we want. That'll do. So let's format these a little. So we're going to have calendars, various points of interest generators, adventure mad libs, side quest boards, a whole thing on Dungeonomics, which will all be devoted to currencies and that kind of stuff. Generators for cities, so that will be... Let's have a look at what my city generator is in the existing one, because I can't actually remember if I can find it. City generator. So it is a location within the city. So it's a location and a description. So maybe that'll get pulled over. I think that needs development. Dungeon generator. Dungeon generator is going to be fairly expansive. and I've got a whole bunch of tables sitting somewhere that I don't think are in the old master book to pull in for that. NPC generator should be easy enough to do. The evocative point of interest generator, hex scroll, and location name generator, all easy enough to do. May need a rework with some names. I'll need to go through and make sure it hasn't like pulled in Peniston or like some weird UK based names. And then let's have a look at what wasn't in the index but is in the older master book. So got the banded accuracy table. We've got we won't pull in the weapons table. DCs by level. DCs by level, I think, is one that will get pulled in, and I think I will just copy that wholesale because it is incredibly useful. Let me make a new tab and paste and name you DCs by level. So what this is it will allow you to look at what level you are and see what sort of DCs you should be aiming for. So if you are a level 10 character, let's say, and you are fighting an enemy and you want your level 10 characters to have a 55% chance of hitting the enemies, that enemy probably should have a 20 AC, because by the time they have their +5 character mod in their primary stat, which they're probably going to have by level 10, and they're probably going to have a +1 magic item at that point, as well as their +4 proficiency bonus, they're going to have a +10 to hit. So to get a 55% hit chance, the AC for the enemy needs to be 20. This is a really useful table for adjusting monster stats in 5th edition to help quickly bring monsters up to parity for the players. So what I will often do is I will build encounters and include lots of low level enemies, and I will just bump their AC a little bit. I won't touch their hit points, but I'll just bump the AC a little bit and bump their damage output and their hit bonus. So I'll just make them more aggressive and a little bit harder to hit, but when they get hit, they go down. Not quite as easily as like 4th edition minions, but it helps make it so that the enemies can actually hit the players, because even though bounded accuracy means that there's always a chance that they will, statistically speaking, a lot of lower level enemies aren't going to hit you, because of as soon as a player's AC crosses that 20 threshold, it's really hard for 2014 monsters to hit them consistently unless they're CR10 plus, because they just don't have the hit bonus baked in. That's much less of a problem in 2024, but it was a real problem for 2014 monsters. So this is our generic points of interest, and another thing we'll probably add is the 2024 monster stats. So I'll need to scrub IP monsters on the list. So I have made a video about this on the channel. I went through the 2024 Dungeon Masters Guide, Monster Manual, and made a quick monster builder. And I did that by taking the stats of 500 plus monsters and putting them into a big table and crunching the numbers on them, and making the numbers that I crunched available to people to do whatever they want with would be very beneficial for people. So I'll probably include those raw stats and then the quick monster builder as well. Within this document. just holy mother of God, that's cold, to make it as useful as possible. So those are all the things that were in my original book, but I want to know what kind of things you would find useful from something like this, or if there's anything that you'd like to specifically see included in any of these lists or builders that like jumped out at you and you're like, oh, I definitely want to see that. So let me know in the chat while I recover from this brain freeze. Oh my God. Oh, that was so cold. I think the list is pretty solid, to be honest. That is good to hear. It's what we want as a good starting point. I'm sure that there will be push the tank to the roof of the that is what I did. I'm sure that there will be other things to include, like this. I don't know if this would be useful to anyone else, but this is the days to level up table. So it is a table that breaks down the XP a character would get, divides it by the kind of medium encounter budget and the number of encounters per day, and tells you how many sessions you can expect it to take to advance depending on what level your character is. So if we look here in 2014, character at level 1, the XP budget per character takes 300 XP to go up to 1 level. Assuming a 6 encounter day, which is what 2014 assumes, at 6 medium encounters, it will take you 1 day. And looking at that gives you an idea of how many adventuring days is my campaign going to be. 2014, you can expect it to be about 148 in-campaign days. In 2024, it's about 129, so you'll get to level 20 faster. And then I actually can't remember what the there we go, what the magic items per session is. So magic items per session, this is how I came to the realization that the 2024 guidance for how many magic items you get is absolute nonsense, because it claims that you should be rolling on one of the tables every single session, and if you were rolling every single session, this is the average number of magic items that you'd get from that roll, and then here's your average number of sessions that it'd take you to level up, and then here's how many magic items you'd end up with. You'd get 318 magic items over the course of a 2024 campaign, whereas the book says you should get 100. So there's a massive disparity between the headline figure that the book gives you and then how often it says that you should be getting items. And I don't think that the average DM needs to see all of the math to know, but it's good for a DM to know that the book is going to recommend you give out a lot more items than you really should be. This is actually pretty useful. I've been thinking about how many sessions to level up lately. I always aim for sort of 6 sessions between level up, and then vary it depending on where the players are in the story. We mainly use XP as a guidance for milestone, but I try and aim for around 6, and then depends on, are they in a narratively satisfying place. And Phoenix says, I'm not sure if you can make it more widely usable, but I have a monster hunting guild that my players join and gain ranks in. Probably had a sheet dedicated to who has ranks and the memberships. A monster hunting guild. I'm interested in doing something with making a like faction generator. I have put that down somewhere. Rework the free company generator into a faction generator. Potentially being like, what type of faction? Here are some potential titles and options, maybe. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's a possibility. Not 100% sure on what monster item generator is. I think that this is the startings of a thing for me to work out how to make items from monsters, and a generator to say, hey, here is a potion that requires a huge construct of CR14 to 16 as a material component to create, and you'll get a very rare potion as a result. The problem is I haven't used this document in some time, or I haven't added to it in some time, and I haven't had to do world building in a little while, so I've not had to use a lot of the document. So a lot of like the later elements of it, like this monster generator and the days to level up, a lot of the specifics of it I've forgotten, which is again part of the reason why I'm like, I need to rebuild this to be a version that I can give to the public, because I need to bake in some explanation of what each page is, and like, here is what this page is, here's how to use this page, here's what you should expect from the results, versus just being like, here is hundreds of cells of math with no explanation of what it is or what it means. Enjoy. Because that makes sense to my mind, but it's not going to make sense to anyone else's. So in terms of what we want to do here is we also want to add an introduction page, and that needs to explain the formulas, because there will be that one specific index formula that is going to be really crucial to making the random tables work. And I think if you are providing people with a tool, and that tool contains the ability to make a random table, telling them how to recreate that and how to tweak that is important, because if someone's not familiar with Excel or spreadsheets and they're like, I don't understand how the magic happens, I just press the button and it does, but they press the wrong button and then they break it, giving them the tools to try and fix it before they have to just re-download it, I think is really important. And an introduction page really helps set expectation as well, to be like, here's what you're going to get within this spreadsheet, here's what it's not. And so I think an introduction page is going to be important. I also think that there's probably elements from the OneNote GM Bible that would probably be useful to pull in and put into this. So maybe some things like a formatted location page, so that if someone wanted to run like their entire campaign excuse me, from a spreadsheet, they'd have that option, because I use it in combination with other things, but I don't want to make that assumption of someone else. I don't want to assume that someone's got 8 million other apps open all at the same time as this spreadsheet. So giving someone more tools than they need and allowing them to delete what they don't use is probably going to be better than leaving someone short. So let's go ahead and OneNote GM Bible. Okay, that's none of that is right. The live version. Yes, I did Google to get to my own website to get to the GM Bible rather than, okay, just lock me out. Cool, never mind. I was going to go and look at what was in the GM Bible to include it, but clearly it's having a funny day. So we'll try and actually open OneNote on my computer instead, which isn't something I do very often. Right, so the OneNote GM Bible has player-facing stuff. I don't think that we're going to need to put player-facing stuff in this, because if you are using digital tools for player-facing things these days, I really don't think there's a better option than just using something like D&D Beyond or one of the Beyond clone type services. But putting in something for a Pantheon. So we're going to put GM Bible and make like 6. Pantheon page, and then we want location template, so make that template. What else we've got in here? So we've got, I suppose it would be a deity template, but it's fine. An NPC template, maybe. NPC template. And if we can tie that NPC template into the NPC generator, to have like, here is a template version of the NPC and like a box of quick stats that is automatically generated, I think that would be quite compelling, to be able to like copy paste that page. Then factions, a faction template. We've got location templates and tools, locations, factions, deities. And then I think that is most of the core elements of the OneNote Bible that would need to be copied over. Holy Mother of God. So that gives us what, like 27 different pages? That feels like a lot. That feels like it's probably enough, and some of these might not make it in, some might get changed, some might get turned into other things. Like, as much as I want to make this a self-contained product, I am also aware that it can't be infinite. Excuse me. It needs to be a reasonable size, because Excel isn't and Google Sheets, they're not the most wieldy options, but they have their uses. So I think that's probably going to be a decent like starting point. So I think what I will probably do is do a lot of the like building of the start of some of these pages in between streams, and then in next week's stream, like show you some of my progress, build out some more of the bits, figure out that Flickr issue, and then for the rest of the evening we'll do more like traditionally world building stuff, like we do in a normal stream. So jump over to the Jewel Cities and I'll show you where some of these have been used, or how I would use some of these tools. So let's go and grab this empty plot here, this empty hex, and then jump over to our point of interest generator. So generic point of interest generator, and we have to refresh the whole last page to make it kind of regen. But that would give us, no, let's jump into the evocative one actually. Let's go a little spicier and go evocative points of interest generator, refresh a page. So this is going to be, get out of here, Gemini, nobody wants you. So this is going to be the Skeleton Fortress, which is occupied by Centaur and threatened by a rock. If at any point you find that you are given a selection that you don't agree with, you just refresh. The Snarling Camp, occupied by birdfolk and threatened by phase spiders. I like the Snarling Camp, so we just drop down a new element and call it Snarling Camp. Create our pin, go into that, and this would be a point of interest. And then we would change our pin to be point of interest, make it hidden so that the players can't see it, and then fill out our details. So add in any information that we've got. So in this case, make a note that it is populated by bird folk and that they have a phase spider problem. And pretty much whilst we are building out the 600 plus pins on here, a lot of the pins that we built out were built like that. So things like abandoned villages and traveling nobles, and a lot of those sorts of elements were built out using this spreadsheet and just generating options until something sparked my kind of creative juices, and then I placed it down and it existed in the world. And that's how we went from having no pins to like 600 plus. I don't even know what we're up to these days. Pin clustering, is that what I want? Yeah, pin clustering. 612-ish. I haven't added many pins of late because I'm mid-campaign now, so there's not a lot of like world-level world building happening. Although, those of you that are in the Discord and in the channel memberships will know that there may be some world building happening tomorrow, because my players are dancing on the precipice of a TPK, and it's looking bad for them. They are in the middle of a combat with just so many powerful creatures, and they have blocked off a passage to stop reinforcements arriving, and that has just gone down. So a whole bunch more enemies have arrived, which is where we ended our last session, and there is a very real chance that they all die tomorrow. So over the last week I have been thinking about, well, what happens if they all die? What do we do with this campaign? And the ideas are spicy. I'm gonna have a whole video talking about it going up for channel members. This is a great time to mention the fact that if you enjoy the content here, want to help support me, becoming a channel member is a great way to do it. You can click the join button that's somewhere down below my face, and you get access to exclusive videos and behind the scenes stuff and campaign diaries. And pretty soon we're going to start doing story time videos as well, where I talk about some of the just bonkers stuff my players have done in the past, not related to this campaign. So if you've seen my wizard turned into a doppelganger video, or I've made a couple of them through the years, and start doing some more of them. And you also get early access to regular channel videos as well. So channel members are going to get a deep dive into what I've been working on for what happens if the players fail tomorrow. Wednesday? Yeah, tomorrow's Wednesday. They'll get that tomorrow. But it's a lot, and it's been real hard. It's a real hard line to toe when you know that there's a very real chance that the players might TPK, and it might mean that you have to start a new campaign. So you want to get ahead of some of that prep work, but you don't want to go too far ahead because the players might not die and might not TPK, and that might all be wasted work. So I'm in a real strange midpoint right now, where if they do TPK, I won't be too mad because I am very excited by the prospect of what comes after. They're currently fighting a creature that wants to be a god, and I love the idea of what happens if they fail to stop this creature and that creature wins and succeeds. What does the world look like in that case? But at the same time, I'm very aware that I'm right, I'm not going to force this on them. I'm not going to just brutally and ruthlessly murder their characters. So it has to, happen naturally. They have to sow the seeds of their own demise. But trying to balance that excitement of the idea that I have versus knowing that it might not come true has been very difficult. Very difficult indeed. And just, I find my mind swirling with options for what might come if they do fail, and it's going to be juicy. So jumping back over to our spreadsheet, I think that we're in a good place in terms of the kinds of things that we want to include. A lot of the work that I'll need to do will be copying elements over. As I say, I'll do a lot of that between streams so I can do it in Excel and do it fast, because I can work faster in Excel than Google Sheets because I'm much more familiar with it. But in terms of like planning stuff, I think that I want to strip out the Istari references in a lot of it. I'll leave it in the calendar because the calendar is just an example calendar. But like in the generic points of interest page, I think I want to take out the what region is this taking place in, because that's so super specific to me, and I want to make this as useful to everyone as possible. In terms of a side quest board, information we'd need from that would be quest giver, rewards, the goal, a time frame, an interesting twist, an enemy, and maybe a hidden secret. So I don't know whether I would do this Mad Lib style where there are some filler cells so you read it out like a sentence, or whether it would just be the quest giver is, the rewards are, the goal is, and then the GM constructs that into something to put on a quest board. The reward. Oh no, I've put rewards. Thought I'd forgotten the rewards then. So quest giver, who's giving the quest, what the rewards is, what the goal is, what the time frame is, some kind of interesting twist, what the enemy they'll face is, or the problem they'll face is, and then a hidden secret. I think that's good. For our dungeon generator, we need rooms, functions, dressings, occupants, and detailing. I have a lot of that written somewhere else. I think somewhere in the OneNote Bible, maybe. NPC generator, I will probably copy just as is. The evocative point of interest generator will probably need some tweaks. Needs tweaks for more evocative. Hex roll hex generator, that might be one that just gets dropped because it is just general locations, and it is similar to generic point of interest generator. That could actually be fused, could take the hex roll hex generator, the generic point of interest generator, and give it fuse them so that the generic one gives you a hex tile. So a grasslands contains a, let's see how that would look. Let's go into generic point of interest generator, or the hex crawl generator, and go into the generic point of interest generator here, and refresh that and choose a thing. So an atoll. So a meteorite that has struck an atoll and is populated by humans. Yeah, I think that we can probably combine that with, strip out the story references, combine with the hex generator, hex scroll, hex generator for locations, which will help tighten things up, also make the generic point of interest generator more useful. So get rid of that. Resources list. We might be able to combine the resources list into that as well and really up the value of the generic point of interest generator. So it'd be like, here is where it's located. It's in a forest. Here is what it is. It's an abandoned ruin. Here is the resource that's nearby. Yeah, I think combine with the hex scroll for locations and the resource list, the nearby resources, because then as you are looking at it, you'd generate it. I'm actually thinking whether maybe we take the generic element of the generic point of interest generator and combine it with the evocative point of interest generator to be like, here is the name, a place name, a location from the hex scroll. So in a forest, you'd find the Snarling Camp, which is a lost city, and it is occupied by bird folk who are threatened by phase spiders, and their local resource is I think that might be the way to go, actually, and just have one point of interest generator that does all the jobs, and you use what you want if you want it. I think that might actually be the way to go. So we just have one gen to rule them all. So we combine generic, evocative, hex, and resource lists. And doing that strips down the number of pages we have, which makes it easier to navigate, but it also really increases how useful it is. So I think that's a good move. Then we have the city generator. The city generator, I'm not sure will get kept, because at the moment it is just, here is a point of interest in a city and an interesting detail about it, and I don't think that's enough. And I'm not sure that there is scope within this to make a better city generator than what is available online, like super easily. So the city generator may go, but I will have a think and see whether there's like a version of it that I would like. It may be a case of rework to include population, which would be major and minor, danger levels, interesting features. Actually, I'm talking myself around into keeping the city generator. So if I jump into a city in my world that actually has something on it, Topaz, give me something in, nope, nothing in Topaz. Give me something in Moorburg. Moorburg's got something at least. You can see how several of the cities in my world have these markers on them for what kind of government they have, what languages they speak, what their dominant population and minority populations are, what their dominant religions are, whether they have magic items for sale, what the max level of that item is, what their danger level is. So I think incorporating that into a generator might have some usefulness to be able to be like, here's a list of place names that actually might be, I'm talking myself around into, instead of it being a city generator, it being a settlement generator that we combine with the location name generator, so that you get a location name, the size, the population, what the dominant population is, what the minority population is, are there any enclaves, so like small isolated clusters of individual peoples. Does it sell magic items? What level of magic items does it sell? How dangerous is it there? What's an interesting feature of this location? And I think that is significantly more useful, usable, and like powerful than having just a location generator or a place name generator. So location name generator needs, and then combine with location name generator. So what we'll end up with is something that will allow you to very quickly get a high level view of a location. So I'm thinking it would tell you whether you have a town, and this might require some more complicated formulae in that case, because it would have to be decide on what the size of the city is first and then output population. Maybe. But it'd be like, okay, generate a place, it gives you a name, gives you the size, whether it's a hamlet or a village or a city. Then it gives you the kind of population scale for that, tells you whether the dominant population is human or elves or dwarves. What's the minority population there? Is it mostly humans, or is it like a human city with a lot of dwarves in it? Like, so you can start building that mix of what NPCs you're going to include. Then tells you, can you buy magic items, yes or no? What rarity of magic item is going to be available? And then go on to, is there spellcasting services? So, magic available, items and spellcasting. Then talk about danger levels. So a city with high danger, your players could expect to run into brigands that they're going to have to fight to keep them from stealing their coin purses out in the street, versus a very safe village. You know, everyone has their doors unlocked and howdy neighbor, and treats everyone really well. Then talk about interesting features. So this could be like the mayor has a dark secret, or, you know, we want just a little plot nugget to give the GM an immediate, oh, I know what this place is. You know, the city ruler is secretly a lizard in a person suit, or all of the people in this location are secret cult worshippers. A lot of dark secrets in this. Maybe there'll be some fun stuff there too. You know, on every third Sunday, everyone gathers in the town square and dances naked around the maypole, but refuses to tell anyone why. You know, we could get quite silly with some of them, and I think that's what we'll probably do in stream, is populate some of these lists, because I think that would be quite funny. But then that as a generator in of itself, I think, will be more than the sum of its parts, more useful than having just a name list and a thing that gives you like some shop names or a location in a city and a description of it. I think that will be much more useful. Similarly, for the NPC generator, I think the NPC generator is probably in a good place already. The resource list is getting amalgamated into the point of interest generator, and it'll be stronger for it. Shop names, I don't think that we necessarily need to have a shop name generator. I'll keep it on the list for now, but I feel like if once you go down the name generation route beyond just names, and an NPC generator I'm more okay with, because there's countless NPCs in every single session. But once we start being like, right, okay, shops are the things that I deem worthy of granting name, then it's a case of, well, why name shops but not name magic books or like that kind of thing? And that then becomes a problem of scope creep of like, right, okay, we are just adding 200 tabs of name generators, which, yes, does have an amount of value. But I'm like, at that point, just go to D&D Speak and load up one of their tables, because it will give you quicker results. But roping the shop name generator to become an establishment generator for shops, inns, taverns, that is probably the better option if we're going to keep a name generator like that. So possibly adjust to become an establishment generator. The building on the corner is, and I think that is how we can frame some of these things. So within that generator, we could have a cell that says the building on the corner is, and then refresh that, just to make it clear that we're not just giving someone shop names or blacksmith names, that kind of thing. Or perhaps establishment type blacksmith bookshop, a list of generic places within a settlement does have use. I just think that it would need something else as well versus just being a list. You'd want it to have like some kind of additional feature, but I'm not 100% sure what. But I do think there should be a like generic settlement point of interest generator, which would be things like taverns, blacksmiths, grocery stores, that kind of thing, because I have a list of those. If we jump into any settlement and scroll down, I have locations in a settlement as a list in every template location I have within Legend Keeper, so that as I'm making maps for places, I can drag them onto the map and very quickly create a generic like outline of what this location looks like. So all of the golden pins here are just generic locations. They're not specific to this place. The hospital one doesn't even have anything in it because I've not filled out any information. The library one has some information that from some of the other locations, and this is how I will usually do it, is I will put expandable blocks in for each of the locations my players have gone to and then visited a library and interacted with a person. I will place an expanding block there, name it after the location, and then within that expanding block I will put a table, which will often not work because it can be just a bit strange like that. You have to kind of like put it inside the middle. There we go. And then name, description, and notes. And for example, in Topaz, they have met an OG Dragonborn, but I can't remember his name. he's related to the university in some way. Sir Caelan the Sage, there he is. So that's who they met in here. So Sir Caelan the Sage. And I can just copy his information, a librarian and keeper of the books. If I can copy the damn thing and paste that in there. And then anytime I want to go to the library in Topaz, I don't have to make a separate page. So this kind of generic point of interest placement is something that I do within Legend Keeper. It's something that is already in my workflow. But having a generator that gives some information, like it's a grocery store, probably include info on the owner. So have like generic settlement point of interest generator would be like, this is a tavern run by a X, like an Arakocra, who is, and just give some high level information. Not necessarily generate a whole ass PC, but give you some indication of who runs it, so you don't have to go to the two generators and generate a whole PC for it. And then maybe talk pricing, low, average, high, and including a quest hook is probably reasonable. But we do have our quest board. And maybe a quest or other notable thing. So we want it something to be able to be like, okay, here is a blacksmith run by a person, and then 2 to 3 other details. Something that a GM can generate and go, right, okay, this is enough of a framework for me to build off. We're not necessarily, as with all of these things, we're not necessarily trying to give the GM everything they need to know in one button click. It is just a short, evocative starting point to go, right, okay, conquer the blank page, generate that settlement point of interest. Like, what is on this street corner? Oh, okay, it is a tailor. Cool. Go to the NPC generator and generate a person from that, and that kind of thing. I did consider a level of magic item or rarities available within the settlement point of interest generator, but then if you end up with something like a tavern or a grocery store, or something that distinctly just feels like it shouldn't have magic items, that comes up selling like very rare items, like, well, why? And that in of itself could be interesting, but without messing with like how rarity appears in the list. And there are ways and means to do it, but without tweaking kind of like the rarity values, it can be like, well, everywhere sells magic stuff, and then my city, my settlement generator, my like level above us settlement generator told us this place doesn't sell magic items, and could have an anachronism within that. So probably not with that, but fanciness of the goods, we could incorporate that into like one of the notable things, like, oh, this is a tavern that is unusually fancy for the price point, like a little rider to put at the end of the sentence. If we're imagining that what we're trying to provide is a sentence description to give the GM a jumping off point, some just little tidbits to put at the end there, like, oh, they sell quality items of a quality far beyond what you would expect. That's the kind of thing that could probably apply to any of them. You know, if it's a tavern, they sell much fancier wines than you might expect. If it's a blacksmith, they sell swords of a quality that seem impossible. You know, and that in of itself could trigger quests, and that is kind of the whole design goal, is give someone just enough, known for his high quality steelwork, give the GMs just enough. So what I'm imagining there, Fleet, is like blacksmith run by Bob, known for, and then his high quality steelwork would be the part in the bracket. So we could swap out that entire end part of the sentence. So he could be known for his high quality steelwork, or he could be known for his magical canary that sings show tunes, but only at 3 a.m. You know, that's the kind of thing that we want to. So it's not such a narrow focus on it, but allows us to get some really weird shit in there. Because I think that the really weird shit is where random generators really shine. Because if you can build something that is like 90% sensible and just throw 10% nonsense chaos in, that's where it really, really goes. And that's where some of the best ideas come from, when you're like, oh, why does he have a show tune singing canary, and why does it only sing at 3 a.m? This is ridiculous. This won't fit in my campaign. But then there'll be that one person that's like, actually, that's really interesting. What is going on with that canary? And they'll dive into it. Dances around the fold when mentioning daggers. Exactly that kind of stuff. Like details, little pieces to help embellish it. So I think we probably can do a settlement and a inter-settlement point of interest generator. The treasure map can do, I will probably tweak so the directions make sense. So that if in the first batch of directions it is telling you to go in one direction, it can't tell you to come back on yourself in the second set. And then excuse me, monster generator, get weird with it, OSR style. So that's the monster generator it should be really easy to do. It's a very commonplace thing in OSR materials. And then everything else should come together pretty quickly. And then hopefully next week we can start filling in I can build the scaffolding of most of these pages, or at least some of these pages. And then we can start kind of filling in some of the details. For the settlement, would you go to the level of known imports and exports? That's a really good option. Not necessarily known imports, exports, but something along those lines. That's the kind of detail that you definitely want to be putting on a settlement generator. Like knowing what a settlement trades in. Trade known for. So the settlement could be famous for a specific trade. That could be a specific import or an export, or like the specifics of how that happens or what it looks like in play, down to the GM. Our job is to just provide that spark. So it would be like, this town is this size, predominantly filled with dwarves. There is magic available. You can buy rare magic items in this place. There's a medium amount of danger. The interesting feature might be that there is a strange clockwork golem in the center of the city that requires a tithe every Sunday. And then the trade they are known for is, I don't know, they're all falconers and they like breed falcons. You know, like that kind of stuff. You're like, well, this is a weird ass place, and it's full of weird little idiosyncratic details that are like, well, this can only happen to a place that it helps a place feel like it is much more developed than it is, because you get these weird little details that come up and you're like, well, how why is there this weird clockwork golem in the center of the town, like the giant crocodile in the middle of Hook's portion of Neverland? Why are they like falconers specifically? Why are they not underground if they're dwarves? And it gets you asking the whys, and that is the main purpose of it. Like, if you're asking the whys as a result of doing the generation, then the generation has done its job. And that's the whole goal. Just provide GMs with a way to conquer the blank page and give them that why, to inspire them to make their worlds just a little bit more interesting and a little bit more developed, so that when the players go to a place, they arrive and feel like they're going to a place that has been there forever. But really, you just press generate on a couple of spreadsheet buttons and got this weird collection of options. So we are 9:30. I think we're going to call the spreadsheety stuff there and kind of wind down, hang out for like 10-15 more minutes. So if anyone has questions or anything they want to throw it in the chat, now's the time. And like I said, in between now and next stream, I will set up the framework of a couple of these pages so we can start filling in details and stuff, and not have to deal with the tech problems that is just the plague of my life. And my worst nightmare when it comes to doing stream related stuff is turning on a stream and immediately getting tech related problems. So I will do my usual evening end kind of wind down spiel thing, and if you have questions or anything or suggestions, things that you'd like to see included in this GM spreadsheet, throw them in the chat below while I do it. So for those that don't know and haven't seen me talk about it before, I do have YouTube channel memberships where you can sign up, get early access to videos, get exclusive videos, campaign diaries, behind the scenes stuff, monster building workshops, a whole bunch of stuff and things there. Also have a Discord. If it's going to post today, it is going to post today. The buttons work, technology is great, everything is fine, where you can gather with hundreds of other players and GMs and discuss the latest machinations of your world and how you're going to torment your players. And I also have a Patreon where I post content for 5th edition, and I've recently changed how my Patreon works, so it's just £1 now, so it's just $1, and you get everything that I make from this point going forward. There are still some tiers available to get access to the back catalogue of SideQuest magazine, but that is for a very limited time only. I think there's only like 1 or 2 months of that left, so if you're interested in that, want to sign up before that goes. But from that point on, SideQuest and everything I make is available on my DriveThruRPG store. That's where all my goodies live. And I think that's all the buttons that I need to press. So it's all good. You can tell that it's getting to the end of the evening. It's been a long day. So up at the ass crack of dawn to go to the doctors, and it's been a long day. But yeah, so next week we will carry on with this spreadsheet stuff. We will dive into some of the specific kind of pages of the sheet and do some actual generation of content and go through and generate some ideas and throw it back and forth and figure out what some of these options are going to be. So that'll all be good fun. But I've been Anto. I hope that you have enjoyed this evening, and until next time, happy gaming.